The President of the United States.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Vice President, members of Congress, and citizens of America, tonight we are reminded of our nation's path toward civil rights and the work that still remains to be done. We must honestly acknowledge the circumstances we inherited. 94 million Americans are out of the labor force. Over 43 million people are now living in poverty, and over 43 million Americans are on food stamps. More than 1 in 5 people in their prime working years are not working. We have the worst financial recovery in 65 years. In the last 8 years, the past administration has put on more new debt than nearly all of the other presidents combined. We've lost more than 1/4 of our manufacturing jobs since NAFTA was approved, and we've lost 60,000 factories since China joined the World Trade Organization in 2001. Our trade deficit in goods with the world last year was nearly $800 billion. And overseas, we have inherited a series of tragic foreign policy disasters. Solving these and so many other pressing problems will require us to work past the differences of party. It will require us to tap into the American spirit that has overcome every challenge throughout our long and storied history. But I am here tonight to deliver a message of unity and strength. For too long, we've watched our middle class shrink as we've exported our jobs and wealth to foreign countries. We've financed and built one global project after another.
Shimon Peres, Israel's dreamer. Peres quite literally helped build the State of Israel. Today, we're making another unprecedented commitment to the security of the Israeli people. A memorandum of understanding we'll be signing shortly commits to providing Israel $38 billion in military aid over 10 years, including $33 billion in foreign military financing funds and an unprecedented commitment of $5 billion for missile defense. This is the single largest pledge of military assistance to any country in U.S. history.
Israel has no better friend, no more reliable strategic ally, no more important partner than the United States of America.
While our infrastructure at home has so badly crumbled, but ignored the fates of our children. We've defended the borders of other nations while leaving our own borders wide open.
NATO was founded in 1949 by 12 member countries. Over time, more countries have joined. NATO has 28 members.
And we've spent trillions and trillions of dollars. We have undertaken a historic effort to massively reduce job-crushing regulations.
Good morning, Ainsley.
Good morning. All right, let's talk about some of these regulations. What does he mean by that? What does it mean to our viewers?
Let's break it down in a couple areas. Let's start with construction. Many contractors that you talk to, statewide and nationally, Ainsley, they have been basically bogged down for many, many years of too much regulations, from land use issues to pulling permits, just things that basically stop the ability to grow. Things that take months and months and months to happen shouldn't take that long. So I think what the president is saying, one of the greatest developers of all time, is look, he understands development. He understands the use of development, what it means to jobs in America. If they could deregulate some of these things, it's going to affect construction and growth, which could be good for America, for the economy, and for jobs. And there's a direct correlation between that, no question about it.
Creating a deregulation task force inside of every government agency. And we're imposing a new rule which mandates that for every one new regulation, 2 old regulations must be eliminated. American companies are taxed at one of the highest rates anywhere in the world. My economic team is developing historic tax reform that will reduce the tax rate on our companies so they can compete and thrive anywhere and with anyone.
Whether you know it or not, there's a tax barrier to bringing money into the U.S. It sounds strange, I know, but here's how it works. Say you're a U.S. company, and you open up an office overseas to serve British customers. Any money you make in Great Britain is taxed at Great Britain's tax rate, in this case, 25%. And as long as you leave that money in Great Britain, you don't have to pay any more taxes on it. But say you want to bring that money back into the United States. Well, before you can bring that money back to invest in the U.S., you have to pay the difference between England's tax rate and the U.S. tax rate. And since the U.S. has the second highest corporate tax rate in the world, no matter where you're bringing the money from, you're likely to have to pay an extra tax to bring it home to the U.S. In this case, you'd have to pay the difference between England's tax rate of 25% and the U.S. tax rate of 35%. It's almost like paying a toll to bring money to the U.S. And that discourages investment in America year after year. That's money that should be in America. There shouldn't be a penalty for bringing it home.
We must create a level playing field for American companies and our workers. I am not going to let America and its great companies and workers be taken advantage of us any longer. They have taken advantage of our country. No longer. This effort will be guided by 2 core principles: buy American and hire American. Because only then can we truly make America great again. We have withdrawn the United States from the job-killing Trans-Pacific Partnership,
also known as the TPP. There are so many little points to negotiate that talks have been ongoing for 10 years. The 12 countries involved are looking to strengthen their economies by linking them together, and they're already pretty strong, accounting for a combined 40% of global GDP. If it all goes into full effect, it'll build on and supersede a network of past trade deals, like the North American Free Trade Agreement between Canada, the United States, and Mexico.
Protectionism. Protection hurts consumers who have to pay more for inferior products. It hurts industries whose costs are forced higher. In the end, it even hurts the firms who are protected.
Protecting a firm from competition does not make it more competitive. Suddenly you can relax and put the kettle on. Competition forces you to be sharp and buck up your ideas. Remove that and it's like pulling the plug out.
We must restore integrity and the rule of law at our borders.
Regular patrols continue along the stretch of this barrier that Turkey has erected here in the Yalada sector of Hatay province. This barrier, on the other side of which is Syria, is a 64-kilometer stretch, will be complete by April, is what the military is telling us, and their eventual plans of extending it all the way to Shanliurfa, Gaziantep, about 200 kilometers, and patrols are continuing.
It is not compassionate, but reckless to allow uncontrolled entry from places where proper vetting cannot occur.
Extreme vetting is how President Trump characterizes his ban on certain refugees from coming into the U.S. Trump's pronouncement coming during his first visit to the Pentagon. The order stops people from Iraq, Syria, Iran, Sudan, Libya, Somalia, and Yemen from entering the United States for 90 days. It also suspends the U.S. refugee admissions program for about 4 months.
My administration has answered the pleas of the American people for immigration enforcement and border security. We will soon begin the construction of a great wall along our southern border.
What would it take to build a wall on the border between the United States and Mexico? You're talking about an area 1,954 miles, stretching across California, Arizona, New Mexico, and right here in Texas, just about 100 yards away from Mexico. We spoke to civil engineers, architects, and academics. They all say the wall can be built, it can be done. The question is, how? The first thing one has to do is before you go up, you have to go down and build a foundation. This will help provide support for the wall. In order to prevent people from tunneling underneath it, it should be at least 5 feet deep. The second thing one must consider is what do you use to build the wall? What materials do you go after? Well, how about cinder block? The upside is it's strong, it's secure, it's readily available. The downside is it's labor intensive to have to stack every single brick in order to build the wall. So our experts say that option doesn't work. There is another option, using poured concrete on site. That's what they did when they built the Hoover Dam. The downside to that is when you pour concrete in warmer climates, like along many of these border states, experts say what you could end up with is a weaker wall because the concrete might not dry correctly, meaning a wall that could end up crumbling. So what could be the answer here? The experts that we spoke to say the way to go is pre-casted cement wall panels. Those panels would be lined side by side, sort of like what you might see on a highway. Each panel would be about 20 feet high, again 5 feet below ground, about 10 feet wide and 8 inches thick. Again, that wall would be stretching some 2,000 miles, and our expert says it would require 339 million cubic feet of concrete. And that's just for the panels. You're also going to need reinforced steel, at least 5 billion pounds.
By finally enforcing our immigration laws, we will raise wages, help the unemployed, save billions and billions of dollars, and make our communities safer for everyone. We are also taking strong measures to protect our nation from radical Islamic terror.
Oh, well, what did I hear? I know. This is an article reported by Robert Gale, that's G-E-H-O. Date of is January the 23rd, 2017. Published by downtrend.com. General Mattis, you know who he is? Mad Dog Mattis. He was appointed by Donald J. Trump as the Secretary of Defense to replace Ass Carter. General Mattis celebrates first day in office by blowing up 31 ISIS targets.
As promised, I directed the Department of Defense to develop a plan to demolish and destroy ISIS, a network of lawless savages that have slaughtered men and women and children. Tonight, I am also calling on this Congress to repeal and replace Obamacare. Obamacare premiums nationwide have increased by double and triple digits. As an example, Arizona went up 116% last year alone.
The reason is that the way the subsidies are designed under the law is that they are pegged to go up according to the price of what's called the benchmark plan, which is the second lowest cost plan in the silver tier. It's all a little bit complicated, but basically when premiums go up, subsidies go up along with that.
And those subsidies cover people up to about 400% of the poverty line.
That's right.
And that is about, for a family of four, making up to about $97,000.
That's right.
So the subsidies are going up, then who's picking up the premiuming?
So what happens when the subsidies increase is that the cost to the government, which is to say to those of us who are taxpayers, goes up as well.
We should implement legal reforms that protect patients and doctors from unnecessary costs that drive up the price of insurance and work to bring down the artificially high price of drugs and bring them down immediately.
Marketing rights to a drug and then raise the prices of that drug from $13.50 a pill to $750 basically overnight. And there's the drug. Daraprim is the name of the drug, and it's something that's used to treat a life-threatening parasite illness, infection that people with a compromised immune system can get.
My budget will also increase funding for our veterans. Our veterans have delivered for this nation, and now we must deliver for them. A 5-year ban on lobbying by executive branch officials and a lifetime ban. Thank you. Thank you. And a lifetime ban on becoming lobbyists for a foreign government.
Members of Congress, I have the high privilege and the distinct honor of presenting to you the President of the United States.
According to data provided by the Department of Justice, the vast majority of individuals convicted of terrorism and terrorism-related offenses since 9/11 came here from outside of our country. We have seen the attacks at home, from Boston to San Bernardino to the Pentagon, and yes, even the World Trade Center. We have seen the attacks in France, in Belgium, in Germany, and all over the world. Each American generation passes the torch of truth, liberty, and justice in an unbroken chain all the way down to the present. That torch is now in our hands, and we will use it to light up the world. A new national pride is sweeping across our nation, and a new surge of optimism is placing impossible dreams firmly within our grasp. Industries will come roaring back to life. Heroic veterans will get the care they so desperately need. Our military will be given the resources its brave warriors so richly deserve. Crumbling infrastructure will be replaced with new roads, bridges, tunnels, airports, and railways gleaming across our very, very beautiful land. Our terrible drug epidemic will slow down and ultimately stop. And our neglected inner cities will see a rebirth of hope, safety, and opportunity. Above all else, we will keep our promises to the American people. America is free. Thank you. To keep America safe, we must provide the men and women of the United States military with the tools they need to prevent war. If they must, they have to fight, and they only have to win. In fact, our children will grow up in a nation of miracles. But to achieve this future, we must enrich the mind and the souls of every American child. Education is the civil rights issue of our time. I will not allow the mistakes of recent decades past to define the course of our future. Our obligation is to serve, protect, and defend the citizens of the United States. And none are greater or braver than those who fight for America in uniform.